I just found out about a tool that is super cool and a little scary as well because it can also control your browser. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to build an AI agent that is literally, like I said, going to control your browser and allow you to do a whole bunch of automated things, whatever you want to do, whatever your heart's desire. That means it can buy things from Amazon, book tickets for flights if you need them, or for a concert, or for a con if you're like me, and can even parse information from a structured format like the Kaiser Family Foundation's site for information on healthcare. This requires very little coding and is very beginner friendly. So I'm going to go step by step inside of the documentation and show a few examples on how to get this working. But to do this, we're going to use a framework called BrowserUse. And don't be alarmed, all of this is free, assuming that you already have a subscription to an LLM. If you want to use a LLM that you need to pay for, but you can also use a local LLM as well. This is extremely cool. I'm hoping that you're going to learn a lot. And without further ado, let's take a look at what we're actually going to be using here. So, as I said, we're going to use the framework called BrowserUse, and it would, like they say on their website, it enables an AI to control your browser. That can sound scary to some folks, I know, but this is really cool. It allows for a whole bunch of things, and for me, it allows me to open up comics and read them without having to actually go to the site and read them myself, or for the sake of example, open this basically by bare hands. I can just say, hey, LLM or AI agent, go ahead and open this for me to this comic specifically and just start reading, or get a summary for it, which I'm going to show you later. But let's go to the documentation really quick. And to get started, we're just going to go to the quick start here, and you'll want to follow these instructions. If you don't already have UV installed, that's okay. You can use Poetry as well. I've used both, or you can use pip, but the easiest way that I've seen is to use UV. I'm going to do a video on that later on to actually put UV and Poetry together and see which one comes out on top, but that's a later video for another time. But if you go ahead and install UV and use UV to create a virtual environment, then you want to activate that environment by going to source, VM, then activate if you're on a Mac or Linux machine. And if you're on a Windows machine, you want to go to VM scripts activate. Same way that you've opened a virtual environment if you've played with Python before, it's the same stuff from before. Sorry. Then you want to go ahead and install some dependencies. Specifically, you want to install BrowserUse, and also you want to install Playwright if you don't already have that installed. I've took the liberty to actually go ahead and do this already for the video, but you want to, if you are on a Mac machine specifically, or Windows, you want to make sure that you have Playwright installed, and you can actually install Playwright with Python. And just to demonstrate that, I wanted to go to their documentation as well. And again, installation for Playwright for Python, you can go straight here and install that directly from here. Again, you can use UV to install this if you have UV installed, but if you don't, you can always go with pip. Good old pip is just fine, but UV is faster, just saying. But you can always install Playwright, and then once you have it installed inside of your virtual environment that you installed over here, or started over here, I should say, then you can go and install Playwright. And what it's going to do is install the required browsers that you need for this to actually work. Because if you don't already know, Playwright is a Chromium-based system, so you're going to need some you're going to need some browsers installed on your actual machine to actually get this running. If you want to do a simple test or an example test on this, just use this documentation here to just make sure that this is actually working. But if you have all that done, you should be able to use Playwright install here, and then we'll head on down to create the agent. I'm going to hop over to my Mac because the later on example that I want to show to actually use your own browser, because I'm using WSL on my Windows machine, it doesn't work very well. So I wanted to actually show something that actually does work. So I'm going to hop over to my Mac just a second and go through all of these examples that I have for you. All right. So now to get started, what we want to do is bring over or look at this documentation that we have here. Again, we're taking or picking up where we left off from before. Again, hopefully you have hopefully you now have your environment activated by now, and we're going to go into creating our first agent. So I'm just going to copy from the documentation here, pull that right on over here, and go into main.py. And what we have here, which is I've taken the liberty to go ahead and create a sample project. So not to bore everyone because that can take a little bit of time. So just getting right into it, we're going to just place this information right over here. So just to go down the line of this code, I'm going to use chat or OpenAI's chat interface to create or use their LLM basically. Then I'm going to use BrowserUse so we're going to also then need from .env as well, and we're going to load the .env that we have here. I took the liberty to go ahead and create an example. So an example.env that you're going to need. If you're using Anthropic, you want to use put your API key here. If you're using Open API like I am, you want to use that right here. That's specifically coming from this documentation over here, by the way. So again, I'm taking most of what I'm talking about here from the documentation and just bringing it right over. From here, then we can go into the imports of async IO because we're going to need to wait for some things to actually happen for this to run. As you can see, as a test, I actually ran this earlier. So I'm going to clear that just so we don't have a whole bunch of stuff bogged down here. And then we have our agent. So we have a main function that is going to call an agent basically with the task of comparing GPT-4o to DeepSeek v3, which is going to grab our LLM from up here and bring it down here, give us the result as the agent, or wait for the agent to actually run, which is why we need this guy up here. And then from there, we'll just go ahead and run this with async io.run main. And again, we're going to run the main function when we actually get here. So if I go ahead and save this, again, the browser is going to open on a separate screen. So I'm going to bring it over. So don't be alarmed if you see me go from one screen to the other. I'm going to bring that over. But if we say Python main.py, we should see the agent start running. So the agent is started. It's going to bring up a browser again off screen for me. So I had everything on full screen. But now you can see that we have our agent that is running. That's where all these different colored boxes are doing. And at this moment, it is literally clicking through or looking at everything on the page. I'm not doing anything at all. It's literally doing all this on its own. And it's going to look through everything or all these pages, and I think it's finished. So now we can go. So it's going to grab all the information that I asked it for, and now we can see that it actually finished running, and it finished successfully. So all the tasks are completed, I should say. So we got pricing for GPT-4o. We have pricing for DeepSeek v3. This has changed since the first time that I actually did this, because I guess that the information has changed a little bit, but you can see that everything has gone through the specific steps that we would expect. So it thought about what it needed to do, evaluated each step to completion successfully. If it could find it, it went ahead and did everything. So we literally start from step one, literally unknown, don't know what's going on, or no actions have been taken yet, and all the way up to actually saying, hey, this is completely done. Here's all your information that we needed from before. It and it goes through each and every step, query by query, search by search, and gives specific information for each of the web pages that it actually has gone through. In the past test that I've done this, it actually goes to the page itself and parses through all of the information. But here it just went through the main stuff that was on the SERP page or the search engine results page and grabbed all of that. But that's fine. I didn't tell it to do specifically anything else in terms of going to a specific page or anything like that. We are going to do something like that later, but I didn't tell it to do any of that here. I just said, hey, compare the price of these two LLMs and give me the price afterwards. So in the next example, I want to show you how to use the same, or if we had a browser open, we could use the exact same browser and basically keep the same browser open for the entirety of the agent that we're using at the moment. So I'm going to create a new file here as well. It's going to go very similar to the other file, or the contents are going to be very similar. I'm just going to call this agent current browser.py. We're going to use some very similar imports here. So I'm going to say from browser, I spell that right, browser, yeah, import, or BrowserUse, sorry. Use, import agent. And we're going to also need browser as well. We're going to need .env, so .env import, load .env, and we're also going to need from LangChain OpenAI import. What was that? Chat OpenAI. Okay. So if you're wondering how I got these two installed, I'm just going to go back a little bit. So I'll clear this and go here. What I did, or I used UV to add BrowserUse, LangChain, OpenAI, and .env, which is given here as the dependencies for this project. So I have BrowserUse, .env, LangChain, and LangChain OpenAI. By the way, the version that I'm using for Python is 3.12. If I'm not mistaken, as of the recording of this video, BrowserUse needs to have 3.10 installed. So you need that in order for this to actually work. So now that we have those installed, or those imported, I should say, we're going to load the .env really quickly, and I'll import async IO. Yes, okay. And in this example, if I already still had my browser, again, I closed it, or it closed on its own from before. But if I had one open, what I would want to do is keep that open and use it. So I'll say def, or create a function called main. We'll say browser, can't spell, browser equals browser. Ask one, going to be equal to find information about the latest AI developer tools and API. Okay. And the LLM that we're going to use will be Chat OpenAI as well. And the model will be GPT-4o because it's the cheapest one to use. I'm then going to grab my agent. So I'll let the autocomplete help me here, and we'll just say agent task, or task one. So here, I spelled that completely wrong. That's supposed to be task. Task here. And we'll get rid of this guy here. So task there. We have our LLM and our browser as well. Then from here, we're going to await the execution of the agent. So await agent.run. And then we'll also await the browser closing as well. So we'll say browser close. This is basically closing. Oops. Autocomplete is not being helpful right now. Come on. There we go. So this is basically closing or manually closing the browser. And then go ahead and run this bad boy. So we'll say if name is name, then we'll say async.io run main. Cool. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and run this. I'm going to just say Python agent underscore current browser.py. I'm going to go ahead and bring this over on screen because it happened off screen, and we can see now that we have 14 AI agents and this is actually gone into an article. So 14 AI agents every developer should know in 2025. So OpenAI's API, Google Cloud's API, and all those things down here. From a previous test, this actually went and found 50 of the AI agents or AI developer tools that every developer should know from a different search. So each time it happens, it's coming up with different information, at least the way that I run it. But you can see that this actually goes in, does find some information that we can dive deeper into each of these tools. So Assembly AI, I've never heard of. Replicate API, I've never heard of either. Obviously, we all know about Anthropic, Twilio. I didn't know that they had one, so that's something to check out later on. Clarify API is something I've been wanting to check out for a long time anyway. So a lot of different things. Hopefully this is actually giving you some insight as well. Watching this and seeing some tools that you might need to pick up on or go and check out yourself. But you can see the power of what this can actually do. It literally can do any and everything that you need it to do, regardless of what you ask it for. So literally here, and you can run this again, and it will probably come up with either the same information or different information that you probably didn't even know to think about or look for yourself. But the last example that I want to show here is how to use your own browser to actually get information that you could normally not have access to from this agent specifically, because you would have to sign in order to do it. So let's jump over to the next example. Okay, so the next example, I'm going to create another file, and this one I'm going to call agent personal browser.py. And to save on some time, I'm going to import those imports that we're going to need anyway, because pretty much the same thing here. I'm going to load.env and also import async.io. Okay. Now that we have this, what we want to do is go over to BrowserUse's or BrowserUse, the documentation for BrowserUse, I should say. Go to connect your own browser, and we're going to grab some information from the documentation here. It's very similar in terms of what we were using before, but I'm specifically going to use this right here because it gives some examples on what we should be looking for on different machines. And specifically here, because I'm using a Mac in this example, I'm going to be using Chrome or opening Chrome from my Mac here. So if you're on a Windows machine, you're going to want to use this example. And if you're on a Linux machine, you're going to want to use this example. From this current recording of this video, if you're using Windows, WSL, and using Linux, that does not work just yet. There are some workarounds to get some things to kind of work, but it doesn't work all the way, which is why I'm using my Mac here at this moment. But it does partially work, and I believe that the team and the maintainers are actually actively working on that, because there is an issue that is already out there for that. But to save some time, I'm just going to go ahead and use my Mac here. I'm going to grab this and bring it over to our document over here and paste that right on in there. Cool. Then what we're going to want to do is declare the LLM that we want to use. So we'll say LLM is going to be equal to chat open AI. The model, and I'm going to add some different things here. So we'll say the temperature will be 0.0. I'm going to take this max tokens out of here, and I'm going to set the timeout because I know that this is going to take some time when I actually go and do this. Or what I'm going to do is going to take some time. I'm going to set this to 10,000 milliseconds. Again, I know that that's a long time for that to actually time out, but I know that this is going to take me some time to actually do this. Because of the task that I know that this is going to require, I'm going to grab this off screen. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have our task. And what I'm going to ask my LLM to actually do for me is go and check out the latest Marvel Unlimited comics available in digital format. Look for the latest issue, read it, and write a short summary of the comic. If the comic you land on does not have a digital version, go back to the series and find another one. Again, that's the reason why this timeout is so large, because there might be a hang up on the digital issue that it's looking for. I didn't tell it which digital issue to find. I just say, hey, go to this particular page, look for it, and then find it and read it and give me a summary of it. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and create our agent. So I'm going to say async def main, and I'm going to give this something known as initial actions. I'm going to use their search bar to find this. So initial actions, and that is right here. So I'm going to use this example here because, again, I know that this is going to be a specific page that I want to open. So if you know that beforehand, you can tell your agent, hey, this is exactly what I want before you even start running it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that and paste it in here. I'm going to take out these two. I'm going to grab again off screen. I'm going to grab again off screen my URL and paste it in here. Okay, I think I got that right. Maybe. I might have grabbed too many things. I think that was it. Maybe. No. Oh yeah, I need to close this. Okay, cool. All right, so we have our initial action. So from here, what we're going to need to grab will be the agent. So we'll declare the agent as agent, and that will be the task, the LLM, and the browser that we're going to need. And let's see. And later on, we are going to do something with this controller suggestion that is coming up right here. It's doing that because I have a separate project already open that was testing this, so it's thinking I'm going to do it again, which we are, but we're not going to do it right now, because what I want to do is just get through this agent, and we're going to come back and add the controller in later on. So now we have our initial action. We also now need to create or use the result, or create a result variable here. So we'll say result is going to be equal to await agent.run. And then we'll print result here. And I'll show you some cool things that we can do with that result. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and let it run. And for here, we'll say await browser, close, and then go ahead and run this, and async.run or async.run main from here. Okay. So assuming I didn't fat finger anything, this should work going into my browser. So going to my local Chrome instance of, or my local instance of Chrome, grabbing that browser, opening it, and then going directly to this website here, which is marvel.com/comics/unlimited/home, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So I'll go ahead and save that. And then we'll go and run this. So we'll say Python agent underscore personal browser. Go ahead and run that again. Hopefully I didn't fat finger anything. Looks like I did not, so we're good. It should be opening a browser. If it's not already, I think it might be up because I have these to open. Yeah, I think so. To start Chrome in debug mode, you need to close all instances. Okay, let me close this. And then I'll try that again. Whoops, did it not? Come on now. Hey. Okay, maybe now. Okay, all right, here we go. So Python agent personal browser one more time. There we go. All right, and there we go. Now it's opening. Did that again off screen. And right over here. And you can see that it is actually going in. I'm not doing that. That is the browser looking for the agent, or I'm moving the mouse, but all the colors that you see on screen is the actual browser. So it's going through, it's paging down, looking for the latest or the latest comic, which should be What If Galactus, which it actually did find that. And then, because I said look for a digital issue, it should come down here and find that I needed to click on the read now button and then go into that. So again, it needed to page down because it didn't make it before. So it's looking again, and it should find that. Now it's looking for the read now button, and it should click, and there we go. So we have our comic open. It doesn't all the way get through reading it, but it does open it. So it does allow me to, and this helps me tremendously from my other channel, by the way. It allows me to open up all of the comics that I want to specifically open, and without having to page through everything over and over again. Or did it actually read it? It read something. So it read something of the sort. But it is very, very jumbled. As you can see, it's hard to understand what this all is and all that kind of stuff, but it does work. It gives me some information, a summary of it, and all that kind of stuff. But I want this to be a little cleaner because, as you can see, it's a lot of stuff that's in here, a lot of text that is hard to make out or hard to understand. So to do that, what we're going to do is use Pydantic to actually make this a little bit more Pythonic so that we can understand what's going on inside of this agent. So if I go back up here, underneath the load.env and import async, I'll say class of comic, which is going to take in the base model here. And I want this to have, oops, I got to import that. Don't I? Yep, I do. What's that again? Okay. Need to import from Pydantic base model. So there we go. And what I want that to do then is to have comic underscore title as a string, comic URL as a string, publication date as a string, and so on and so forth. I'm going to grab this off screen and bring this on screen. So again, not to waste your time. So give me 1 second. Okay. So now we can see that we have a class that has a base model that is going to take all of this as the information that we're going to structure for this comic object that we have. And then we're going to place that inside of lists, or inside of a list. If we were going through multiple comics and researching a bunch of different things on one specific character, we could. So we can say, hey, give me all of this information in a list format for all the comics that we are looking for. In order to control this, or to make this, like I was talking about earlier, a little bit easier to understand, in terms of how we would talk to the agent, we need a controller. So we'll say controller equals controller, and the output model will be comics. Okay. That also needs to be imported. So I'm going to go back up here to BrowserUse and import that. So we'll say controller there. And I do believe that is everything that we need in terms of the controller. Or before I speak too soon, let me go ahead and put that inside of the agent. So we'll say controller equals controller. And basically what this allows us to now do is go inside of the results and tell the results to look a certain way. So we could use this variant here. I'm just going to put this inside of a comment because we're not going to run this, but we could say print the result dot extracted data, no, content, which is a function which would extract a bunch of different or extract all of this information so that we only get the stuff that we're looking for. But just going to leave that as in the exercise for the viewer if you want to run that. But I'm just going to go ahead and run the final result, which is going to give us exactly what we want. So we could now say results, get me or print out the results dot final result. Okay. And when that does happen, what we will see, or what we should see, is everything placed inside of this nice little package here so that we can actually use it as a Python object. So I'm going to go ahead and save that, and I'm going to clear all of this information out. Again, keep that as a mental picture. All of this stuff here, the divs and all that kind of stuff that's in there. And we're going to run this one more time. I'll clear this so it's not as jumbled, and we'll say run this one more time and see what it does. Again, we see it goes directly to where I told it to, so directly to the Marvel Unlimited page. So we don't have to go to Google. We don't have to guess where we should go. We know exactly where we're going here. We go directly down to the comics section, and it should, as it is, it should click the What If Galactus. Maybe. Come on. Just thinking about it. There we go. Again, we have the comic that we were looking for, the very first, because I didn't specify what character to look for or what comic to look for. I just said go and find the latest one. So that's the latest one as of publishing. So again, it's looking for the button to actually go ahead and read this comic. If it does not see it, it's supposed to go back to the series and find a different one. But because we know that all of these actually have it, well, what the heck did it do this time? Okay, well, that's different. That's a little bit different than what we were expecting before. But as we can see now, it does actually give us the information that we were looking for. And in the object or the way that we were actually looking for it. So we have comic title, so what the comic title was, the comic URL, and we can parse all of this information. So if we wanted to say use this later on, we could say parsed comics will be set equal to comics, and we can set that equal to comics dot model validate JSON, and then pass in result dot final result. There. Yes, is that what I want? Yes. Okay. And if I wanted to make this a little bit cleaner, I could say grab this here and place that inside of a data variable, place that there, and then just to clean this up a little bit, put that in here and just say data. Cool. So the last thing that I want to show is that you can grab, and I'm going to need to bring up the browser use information gain. So we'll say browser use here. Leave me alone, Google Translate. And we're going to need to go to sensitive data. So if I did not already have my information inside of Google Chrome in terms of it is already cached on Marvel Unlimited or Marvel.com Unlimited, if I didn't already have that, I could use this here and pass in my username and password into the agent so that it only uses that information that I asked it for. And again, if we check the documentation down below here, we can see the model only sees the name of the variable that we gave it. So X name or X password if we were using Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. But again, this is very, very powerful in terms of the things that you can do with this agent. You can literally set this to do a bunch of different things for you. If you're booking a trip for a family trip and you trust it enough to go and use your sensitive information in terms of finding and booking the actual trip, the full flight, full hotel, and all that kind of stuff, you could do that. Again, that's something that you probably want to be careful with because that's sensitive information that you're giving there, but you could do that. All in all, that's pretty much all I wanted to show in this video. Hopefully you found something that is actually very useful for you going forward. If you're working on something that needs this type of an agent, here you go. You can go off to the races in terms of what you can build with this. If you're new around here and you found some value in this video, I'd appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and that like button to show the algorithm that you enjoy content like this, and also to show me as well. And until next video, y'all be smooth. Blurt out.